The Mariners can't hit. The Astros can't pitch. Something has to give this weekend. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, April 10th, 2026. My name is Titan Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. And on today's show, we're talking about what's being billed as the stoppable force versus the movable object, because you've got the worst hitting team in all of baseball. That would be the Seattle Mariners, hosting the worst pitching team in all of baseball. That would be the Houston Astros. So something has to give, right? And the Mariners really can't afford to have another stinker of a series this weekend. So we're going to break down the pitching side of things. We'll talk about the opportunity this Mariners offense has to get back on track. But I actually want to start by talking a little bit about how the Mariners are not alone in their, for lack of a better term, suckiness to start the year. I feel it's important to establish kind of an outside perspective on things like this when it kind of feels like it's just all crashing down on your team specifically. Because if you take a step back and you scour the rest of the league, you'll typically see that that's not the case. You know, I want to point to that road trip that the Mariners went on at the end of last August and into September before they went nuclear, when they went to Cleveland, when they went to Tampa, and when they went to Atlanta. They lost 5 of the first 6 games, and it just felt like it was all falling apart for the Mariners. But if you took a step back and you looked at the rest of the league, you would see that, hey, the Dodgers were also going through it. The Tigers were beginning their downward spiral as they lost their grip on the AL Central to the Guardians, who just refused to lose a game in the month of September. It wasn't just the Mariners. At the flip of a switch, the Mariners obviously turned it around and they went nuclear, like I said. Right now, even though the Mariners are at the extreme end of the spectrum, they're also not alone in a very disappointing start to the season and what has been a very weird start to the season across Major League Baseball. Because, like, yes, they have the worst record in all of baseball right now to start the year. They're actually tied, though, for the worst record in all of baseball. And the team that they're tied with would be the team that they knocked out in the ALDS last October. That would be the aforementioned Detroit Tigers, who went to the playoffs, led the AL Central for most of 2025, and went into this offseason and on paper did nothing but get better. But they just got swept in 4 games by the Minnesota Twins, who are not supposed to be particularly good this year. And so now they find themselves at the bottom of the barrel along with you. The Red Sox, a team that I really liked going into the season, I still really like this season, that also made the playoffs and went into this offseason and did nothing but get better on paper. They're 4-8. The Toronto Blue Jays, the defending AL champions, they've lost Alejandro Kirk. They've lost Addison Barger. They've had an illness sweep through their rotation. They've also just been kind of stagnant on offense, not to the degree that your offense has been, but still they've struggled on offense a little bit as well. They're 5-7 to start the year. The Royals, Colby, a team that you picked to win the AL Central when we did our predictions a couple of weeks ago, they're 5-8 to start the year. Even on the National League side of things, the Phillies are 6-6. That's not a particularly ideal start for them. The Cubs are in last place in the NL Central. They're 6-6. That's not a start that I think anyone had envisioned for them. The Padres, before they walked off the Rockies last night, they were 6-6. They're now 7-6. So they're off to a little bit of a better start, but they got off to kind of a slow start. By the way, the Rockies, they're 6-7. They've actually been playing pretty good ball to start the year. They've been playing better ball than, again, the Mariners, the Tigers, the Red Sox, etc. Do we think that's going to last all year long? No, absolutely not. I mean, the White Sox have been playing better ball than those teams that I just listed. And do we think that's going to last? No, it's not. It's just been a weird start to the year as a whole. You know, typically we see a team kind of take off, or a couple of teams take off to start the year. That hasn't really happened. I mean, the Dodgers have the best record in baseball, which is not a surprise whatsoever. They're 9-3 to start the year. But there hasn't been, like, you know, a couple of years ago, we saw the Rays get off to, you know, an undefeated start. You know, the Mariners won 13 of their first 15 games back in 2019, which was completely inexplicable. there hasn't been anything like that that's happened. The Twins right now are only 2.5 games out from the best record in baseball, though. The Marlins are a game and a half out from the best record in baseball. So are the Braves. So are the Guardians. There's just a lot of weirdness going on right now to start the year. But the point that I'm trying to make right now is that, yeah, it's bad. No one's saying otherwise. Like, the Mariners have played some really bad baseball to start the year. And there are obviously some things that we can specifically point to as to why they are 4-9. Like, they've absolutely earned that record so far. But you're not the only fan base to start the year that had World Series expectations going into the season and have been met with disappointment, to say the least, to start the season.
Yeah, it's been rough. Like, I think we can all acknowledge that, and thankfully the American League is pretty mediocre right now, and also thankfully, or perhaps not, depending on how you've coped with the first 13 games, there's 149 of these things left to go. So there's plenty of time to turn this around. And I think kind of the beauty of baseball, but also the really frustrating thing is that often we don't get that sense that things are going to turn around before they actually do. And I mean, from a Mariners perspective, you don't have to look any further back than last September when the Mariners were, just absolutely dreadful on the road in August. And it looked like they were going to go ahead and have another one of those 1-8 road trip, East Coast road trips. And they were going to, slowly descend out of the playoffs. And we were wondering, here they go again and all that. And then just on a random, I don't know, Saturday night in Atlanta, Julio Rodriguez decided to be the best player on the planet for, 5 innings. And they snuck away with a win in Atlanta. And then the next day they blew out the Braves like 18-2. And they would go on to win, I think, 17 of 18, 18 of 19, whatever it was. And they never really looked back, and they got all the way to the ALCS. And before Julio hit 2 home runs and made a great catch against Michael Harris and all that, like, we had no idea that was going to happen. There was no reason to suspect that the team was just going to turn around at that point, and it just did. And that's awesome. And it's also annoying and frustrating because you would like the team to not have to, win 18 out of 19, which they don't right now. But also you would like to have an idea like, oh, they're getting close. They're almost there. They're about to turn the corner. Sometimes you don't get that. Sometimes it just happens. And you just kind of have to accept it and be happy that it happens. And, sometimes you can think it's about to happen and then it doesn't. And they lose 3 out of 4 again. And you're sitting there like, well, now this is really over. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just maybe next Thursday against the Padres, they salvage a game and then they sweep whoever. And then, they take 2 or 3 in the next series. And all of a sudden we're right back to where, you want to, or where we're talking about the World Series. So it's frustrating. It's a little aggravating for sure, but the beauty of baseball, you never know when it's going to flip. You just kind of have to trust the talent that you have on the roster. And at some point it's going to turn for you. We can't tell you when it's going to be. And that's obviously, very frustrating for fans. And it's frustrating for us when we talk about this team because we don't know when we're going to have fun talking about them again. But yeah, that's just the reality of sports and baseball in particular. You play so many games, you just never know when it's going to turn for you.
The Astros are another one of those teams that have gotten off to a disappointing start that, a lot of people around the league thought would be a playoff team this year. And, again, like, still plenty of time for them to totally be a playoff team, but they've dealt with significant injuries so far, especially in their pitching staff. Most recently, Hunter Brown, and their pitching staff as a whole has suffered greatly as a result. They've been the worst pitching staff in all of baseball. So this gives the Mariners, in theory, great opportunity to turn things around offensively. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Long Time Mariners podcast is brought to you by TurboTax.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Baseball is finally back. And to celebrate, I'm giving you a full month of the Everydayer Club for free. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com and use the promo code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad free and get access to our private listener group chat. Tap the link in the description and use the promo code FINALLY to claim your free month. So this Astros rotation, like I said, they're beat up right now. I'm not even sure if the 4 starters that I see here that are projected on roster resource are actually like how it's going to line up for them. I know there's been a lot of confusion about how things are going to line up this weekend for the Astros. For now, roster resource has it as Tetsuya Mai facing Emerson Hancock tonight. Then tomorrow it's going to be Lance McCullers. Cody Bolton, former Mariner, is apparently going to start on Sunday. And then, this is a wraparound series. So there's actually going to be a Monday game, which is very weird. I can't remember the game. I can't remember the last time the Mariners played a wraparound series, especially at home. If you do, let us know in the comments below. But nothing comes to the top of my mind. Certainly not in the time that you and I have been covering this ball club, unless I'm just completely spacing on something. But it'll be Mike Burrows apparently starting in that final game, who the Astros rather acquired in that 3-team deal with the Pirates and the Rays this winter. High expectations for him. He hasn't gotten off to a particularly good start. Really, none of these guys outside of McCullers has gotten off to a particularly good start. Now, Amai has obviously, taken like social media by storm. Like he's been on Pitching Ninja a lot with the reverse slider, the wrong way slider, whatever they're calling it. So obviously this guy has really good stuff. But again, like I said, leading into the segment, this seems to be on paper pretty good opportunity for this Mariners offense that has greatly struggled to start the year to get back on track here.
Yeah, we actually don't know who's going to start Sunday and Monday yet. They have not made the official announcement, so we'll wait and see there. But obviously you avoid Hunter Brown, who's on the IL. Josh Hader still not throwing, I think. So you're not going to see Hader in this bullpen either, so that's a big hit. There's a decent opportunity here to score some runs, but it is T-Mobile Park. Now, I think it's going to be relatively warm at T-Mobile this weekend, which, considering that it's early April, it's going to be in the mid-50s. I think that's nice. And hey, you know what? The Mariners did have better offense at T-Mobile Park than their first road trip of the year. Now, who's to say that's going to continue? But yeah, you do have an opportunity here again. The Astros bullpen, not what it was. You're avoiding Hunter Brown. You're avoiding Christian Javier. And Lance McCullers, he's got a pretty good ERA right now, but we've seen that dude just struggle to throw strikes. The Mariners usually have a pretty good game plan against them. Usually get him out, especially, post surgeries. Lance McCullers, they usually get him out after 4 or 5. And so you can attack that bullpen. It should lead to good results on Saturday and Sunday, Sunday and Monday, especially if they're going with some kind of bullpen game in one of these series or one of these games of the series. So we'll see how it goes. But at the end of the day, like, good matchup on paper. You mean like the Angels? So it's no guarantee when you're slumping, when you're struggling to hit. It doesn't matter who the other team is throwing until you actually hit. It just feels like you're going to post, 2 runs or less. So we'll see how it goes. By the way, the backwards slider, if you're trying to visualize that, it's essentially a 2-seamer. So it just moves similar to a 2-seamer from a righty. So it's a really good pitch, but again, it can be hard to visualize when you say a backwards slider. It's not like a screwball or anything like. It's more like a 2-seam fastball essentially, but it's a pretty good one. I think Amai had a really good start and then like a really bad start, so that's kind of a middling result for him.
So he's had some walk issues to start the year. Even in his scoreless start, I think he went 5 2/3 against the A's. down in Sacramento. He still walked 3 in that game. He walked 4 in his first outing against the Angels, where he only went 2 2/3, gave up 4 in that outing. So yeah, it's been a mixed bag for him so far, and it's only 2 starts. So that he's hard to read going into this one. Again, it's guy coming over, from Japan. First 2 starts are just in complete opposite directions from one another. So
yeah, it's always, it's usually, I should say, difficult when you see a player for the first time. Usually takes an at bat or 2 to kind of.
Does have a lot of strikeouts though. 13 strikeouts and 8 1/3. So, and the Mariners have obviously struck out quite a bit to start the year. So
yeah, so not great. But that's just the reality of the situation. It's 2026. You're probably going to face some starters who strike guys out. Most of the starters are going to have, pretty good stuff, and they're going to. You're not going to get to face. Well, I would say Reed Detmers, but yeah, you're not going to get to face Jack Ohanowitz, but So it doesn't seem to matter who they're facing right now. But yeah, it'll be an interesting test tonight for the Mariners bats. Again, it's just one of those things where it's like, I could go pitch by pitch and say, they could do this, they could do this. They got to hit, man. When they get a fastball in the zone, they got to hit it. It's really that simple. And right now hitting the fastball is like the most important thing, because if you cannot hit a fastball, you are DOA. You have no shot. It doesn't matter what else you do. You can't do anything if you can't hit a fastball.
Yeah.
Right. You can't play defense if you can't play catch. So yeah, it's the fundamentals, man. You have to hit a fastball. You have to play catch. You have to not be stupid on the bases. You have to play clean baseball. Start with that, and then the offense hopefully will follow suit. But this team, on top of not hitting, they just have not played clean baseball. It's the fundamentals that have killed them on the last road trip. And I'm not talking about getting a bunt down. I'm talking about playing catch. I'm talking about making sure you touch the base before you go to the next one. I'm talking about when you get a fastball down the middle of the plate, you don't swing through it. You actually hit it hard, regardless if it's caught. At least move the ball forward.
Right.
Like you can't strike out on 95 right down the pipe. You have to put that ball forward.
Yeah. Again, missing on pitches inside the strike zone has been a huge problem for this team. It was a huge problem for them through the first 13 games of 2025 as well. They were the only team in baseball with a sub 80% contact rate on pitches inside the strike zone. That's the case once again through the first 13 games of this season. They have 5 of the 30 worst qualified hitters in baseball in that category. Cal Raleigh is dead last. He's got a 71.6% contact rate on pitches inside the strike zone. That's unacceptable. Julio Rodriguez is 3rd. He was 3rd worst last year as well. Randy Arozarena is 20th worst. Josh Naylor, 22nd worst. Cole Young, 26th worst. And all these guys as well. And I'm not saying that this is the reason, but this is just information. All these guys have seen a decrease in average bat speed from 2025. Now, like Cole Young is nitpicking because it's literally a 10th and whatever. And there's obviously like comparing these numbers to March and April last year, it's hard. Those numbers are really hard to apply because
are you able to do that?
Well, like Cal and Julio are actually slightly up from where they were this time last year in bat speed. Right. Randy is significantly down, but he's also, of the 5 guys, probably the second most productive hitter here. Like he's been fine. Mm-hmm. That is a drastic decrease for Randy from last year. But
bat speed's one of those stats though, where it's like people think they know what it means.
Yeah.
And they don't. And I'm not saying that like nobody knows what bat speed is, but people they look at bat speed and they go, oh, well, that's why this guy's struggling. It's like, well, I mean, Jorge Polanco had one of the slowest bats in all of baseball, and he's still super productive. Like you just have to understand your swing and how to make it work. It's.
And again, there's just a lot of variables in terms of like trying to apply like this time last year, like the bat speeds, because like Josh Naylor was in Arizona this time last year. Cole Young wasn't here with the big league club. And again, like it is a decrease technically, but it's literally a 10th of a mile per hour. So it's not really, it's negligible.
Right.
So Naylor last year too, like I think he was at 71.6 mile per hour average bat speed in March and April last year. He wound up dropping to 71 on the whole year. He's typically been around 73. It's probably because of the shoulder thing as well. So he's even tougher to read, because of that as well.
I've seen quite a few people try and make the leap that like, oh, the Mariners' biggest worry is their bat speed is declining. I don't buy it, because I don't think you have enough of a visualization of what matters here with bat speed and what doesn't. And by the way, has Julio's bat speed ever been a problem? No, it never has been. And he's 25. Like, there's no reason for him to fall off a cliff. He's not 38. We see guys in their mid 30s, and sometimes, they just can't get around on the fastball. There's no reason to think Julio and Cal all of a sudden can't do that. They're just not doing it right now.
I think it's a convenient answer to a much more complicated situation.
I think people are looking for answers so that they can go out there and be like, this is the problem, but we don't know that it is or not.
Yeah.
All we can say is that it's lower.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm mentioning it for information purposes only, not because I think that's actually the answer. Like, because the bat speed increased last year from where it was in March and April for both Julio and Cal. Mm-hmm. And this year they're actually ahead of where they were this time last year. So how am I supposed to apply that? Like, the only one that has an egregious drop is Randy. And again, it doesn't seem like Randy's been all that affected by it. He's been fine to start the year.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think people are so desperate for answers that aren't just, well, it's early and baseball's a long game and you have to, it's a marathon. You have to play it out. Like, people don't like that answer, but that is the answer. Like, whether you like it or not, that is the objective answer. And so I think people are really searching for reasons to explain what we already know, and that it's a long season. The numbers will normalize, they'll stabilize, and these guys will get back on track. So I get it. It's not a fun answer. You have to wait. You have to be patient, which I know is like a 4-letter word to Mariner fans, but that's baseball. If you can't be patient in baseball, get out. I don't know what to tell you. Like, sometimes it really is just as simple as it's early. You got to give these guys a chance, and you got to give them more reps, and we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously we get into July and the bat speed is still, significantly
that's
lower.
when I'll worry. Like, when the weather's better consistently across the board, no matter where the Mariners play, like, and it's still down for some of your, biggest names, then sure. Like, but right now I don't feel confident in being able to point to the bat speed as the specific reason why this is happening. But can't deny the fact though that they are not making contact on pitches inside the strike zone. They have been by far the worst team in baseball in that regard. And that's been kind of a constant as well. Again, this was the same case last year. So that's where it begins and ends really for this offense. You got to make better contact. Like, you got to make contact in general, and then hopefully that leads to high quality contact.
Right. What's interesting about the Mariners is that they're striking out a lot, and that leads some people to do the whole like, oh, well, they swing so hard, they swing and miss a ton, so they must be too home run reliant. It's like, you go down the lineup, like Brennan Donovan, not a home run guy. Josh Naylor, not a home run guy. Cole Young, not a home run guy. JP, not a home run guy. Julio is, but Julio also typically hits for a good average. Like, I mean, really the home run or bust, like that's how they help you offensively guy is Cal. Like, even Randy, he can hit 30 home runs. He hasn't yet, but I mean, he could in theory, but he still runs 340, 350 on bases. He still takes a ton of walks. He still sees a lot of pitches. Like, I don't think the Mariners have a roster build problem in that, like, oh, they're too reliant on the home run, like we saw in like 2023, for example. They also struck out a ton, but they hit a lot of home runs, and that was the whole like, oh, they're too reliant on the home run. First of all, most teams are relying on the home run. That's kind of how it works. It's kind of how teams build, but also the Mariners aren't built where they have to hit home runs. They just need the guys who are supposed to get on base, the guys who are supposed to hit doubles, the guys who are supposed to hit for average. They need to do those things. And Julio and Josh, they're not doing it. And Cal certainly isn't hitting home runs or, even getting on base whatsoever. So I don't really think this is a roster build problem. I don't think this is a bat speed problem. At least I don't think we can say it is yet. I just don't see enough evidence to suggest that. So, I mean, again, it's the boring answer. It's the cliche. It sounds like an excuse, but anybody who's watched baseball for any significant amount of time knows sometimes it really is just as simple as it's early.
So, switching gears here, the Astros come to town with one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball, but they also have one of the best offenses in all of baseball. And the Mariners have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. So we're going from one extreme end of the spectrum to the other. So what's going to give on this end of things? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Indeed.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data, worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So the Mariners can't hit, the Astros can't pitch, but the Astros can really hit, and the Mariners can really pitch. So once again, I say something has to give here. And it all starts with Emerson Hancock tonight, Colby. Hancock coming off of two really nice starts to begin the year. And he enters this game in the 99th percentile in fastball run value, which is crazy. But the Astros, pretty good at hitting the fastball. So again, I say something has to give. What are you going to be looking for in Hancock's third start of the year?
Yeah, four seam versus two seam, up versus down. We have seen two starts from Hancock that were a little bit different. His first start in Seattle was four seam almost entirely, really, at the top of the zone to get a ton of whiffs. And in Anaheim, it was still more four seam than two seam, but he threw a lot more two seamers and they were down in the zone instead of up. So it's really what it comes down to. Again, I know everybody loves the sweeper and all that, and it certainly is an important pitch, but for Hancock, it's always been about the fastball values. And in the past, he hasn't had it, and that's, kept his shelf life as a major league starter very thin. Like it's only good for a start or two, and then boom, it implodes. And so, yeah, he has to continue to get fastball value. And while the Astros are very good at hitting the fastball, you can't shy away from throwing it. Like you have to get fastball value. And hey, look at that. The Astros are the best team in baseball against the fastball. They're one of the best offenses in baseball. The Mariners can't hit a fastball. Where do they rank in the offensive equation? You have to hit fastballs, but you're a pitcher. You have to throw the fastball. You have to get fastball value. So it's one of those things where it's like the idea might be like, oh, well, we'll throw more sweepers and changeups since they hit the fastball so well. I mean, sure, but that also means fewer strikes in theory. You have to throw the fastball. You have to get value out of that pitch. So I'm interested to see how he wants to attack this lineup. Does he want to go four seam at the top of the zone? Does he want to go two seam down and try to get a bunch of ground balls? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But for Hancock, it really is all about the fastball. Because as long as he has that pitch, he's a viable major league starter. If he doesn't, then he's, a bullpen arm, like we've been saying for the last couple of years, because the sweeper, while it looks good, it is not as effective without the four seam fastball and the at the top of the zone in particular. So I'm going to be looking for the four seam at the top of the zone and make sure he can get it to the top rail, because if it drops too low into the strike zone, it could be a long night or a short night for Emerson Hancock. So we'll see how he wants to attack this offense.
Again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but the velo, it's going to be a huge key for Hancock and maintaining the velo. And now we have two starts here where one says he wasn't able to maintain his velo. The other start down in Anaheim, he actually was able to. In the fourth inning, he actually had his highest average fastball velo of any inning in that start, 96.4 in the fourth inning. Big reason for that is that he was able to get to 97 somehow on, I think it was like his 45th pitch of the night, which was crazy. And then it started to decline a little bit later on into that start. Fifth inning, he was averaging 94.9. Sixth inning averaged 93.9. Then the seventh inning averaged 93.3, but was definitely able to sustain that velo a lot better than we've really seen ever in any of his starts. So does that continue? Or is this more like the Guardian start where it starts to take a pretty significant dive after the second or third inning? So we'll see how Hancock does against this club. It's by far the best lineup that he's faced, though, of the three starts. So really interested to see how he tries to counter them. Then it's going to be Luis tomorrow, Logan on Sunday. Hoping to see him build on a really nice start in Texas. And then Kirby wraps things up on Monday. Anything you want to talk about with those three guys?
I mean, just that Luis has to have fastball value. The Astros hit the fastball. So this will be a pretty interesting matchup for him. We'll see how he goes. And then, both George and Logan coming off of really good starts in Texas, just a couple mistakes apiece from them. And unfortunately, the offense right now isn't built to cover up pitchers' mistakes or, in fact, hit pitchers' mistakes. But so you just going to kind of see them continue to do what they've been doing. Like if you get the same pitching against the Astros that you got against, the Rangers, which obviously get different lineup quality, but if you get that same quality starting pitching that you got down in Texas, you're probably gonna have a good shot to win all four of these games. How many games will they actually win? I don't know. How many runs will they actually score? I not too worried about the pitching, the bullpen. You kind of built around your bullpen specifically to beat the Astros. You went out and got Ferrer because of, guys like Jordan in particular, and to have Gabe Spire be able to pitch the sixth because Jordan is coming up, or Ferrer, whoever, right? And then when he comes up again in the eighth, I still have another lefty that I can go to. And which is kind of funny, by the way, because like Jordan destroys left-handed pitching. So he kind
of destroys everyone,
I know, but just it's kind of funny to be like, oh, well, we got lefties to face Jordan. It's like Jordan's like the best left-on-left bat in baseball. So you should probably just, worry about throwing your best pitcher rather than handing this at him. But whatever. Any way you want to slice it, it should be an interesting matchup, and we'll see how playing their division rivals and all that. Two teams that are struggling over the last couple of days, in particular, for completely different reasons. It should be a fun series, and I think if one of these teams can take 3 out of 4, or maybe even sweep, it puts the other one really far back on their heels with a lot of ground to catch up on. But I think it'd just be nice to see the Mariners score some runs, have quality at bats, and if they can, the way they're playing right now, if they took, they split this series, I'd actually consider that a win, just because they're playing so poorly.
Right.
That finding a way not to
just avoid disaster,
right? And again, like I said at the beginning, you never know when these things can turn. Maybe they take 3 or 4 from the Astros, or maybe they sweep the Astros, and all of a sudden we're talking about the World Series again.
Yeah,
baseball. It's just weird, and this team in particular, but yeah,
it's just avoid getting out of this series 5-12 or 4-13, because at that point, the things are looking pretty gnarly.
It's a long way back once you start getting 8-9 games under 500 this early in the year. It's not over because of how early it is, but it's a long trip back.
That's quite the hole that you've dug yourself into, though.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go like 12-4 the rest of the month to finish the month of 500. And that's good luck. Good luck doing that. So again, you just, one of those things. Hey, you're not playing well. Find a way to win a couple ball games, and then maybe something clicks for Cal or Julio, and they have a nice series, and you can actually take 3 out of 4. Avoid the disaster, and we'll see how the pitching holds up. This will be their toughest test. Well, the Yankees pretty tough test, and they did okay there. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes, but not a great time to play the Astros from your perspective because you're playing really bad, but also they're not playing all that great. So maybe a good time to see the Astros. I don't know. We'll see how it works out, but should be a fun weekend regardless. Well, it should be a close weekend regardless. I don't know how fun it'll be.
Well, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.